dispel some of the myths that exist concerning homosexuality in Lebanon. One myth is that there's an atmosphere of tolerance that would allow people to express their sexuality in a way that's not accepted by society. And it is also followed by another myth, and I think they're both wrong, that society is too conservative to accept homosexuality or homosexual acts or even a homosexual identity. And in the past, in the past 5 years of our work in Helem and with other human rights organizations, we've noticed that this is not one of the main issues that relate to how people perceive homosexuality. There are different ways how people look at homosexuality, whether it depends on their education, and it does not necessarily mean if you're very well educated that you're more tolerant. But there is a relation with the level of education in a sense. There's also a very big relation with the actual setting. If you are in an urban setting, then you are more likely to allow yourself to live a homosexual lifestyle, especially in a place like Beirut. Of course, if you go to other urban areas further away from Beirut, you see that this is a little bit different. This is why I think that if we look at how people perceive homosexuality, one of the main myths that we should dispel is that we don't know actually how people perceive homosexuality, especially in the region, because there hasn't been any real research on attitudes that are general enough to give us such a perception. Also, another myth is that gays and lesbians in Beirut or in Lebanon in general have it better than people in the rest of the region. This is also true to an extent, but it's not very true because we still have several obstacles to not be. I'm not speaking about extra rights, but not be discriminated against in our daily life. One of them is an article in the Criminal Code, which is Article 534, which criminalizes unnatural sexual intercourse. And we know that homosexuality is not an unnatural sexual intercourse, and this is not just what the psychologists are saying, it's also what most of the judges in Beirut and in Mount Lebanon are saying. With some exceptions, outside Beirut and Mount Lebanon courts, we've had judges that use the clause 534 exclusively against gay men, with very, very few cases against lesbian women. But in general, the pattern has been in the past 10 years in Lebanon that even the judges have been looking at this article and saying that this has nothing to do with homosexuality. Unfortunately, at the end of 2002, the parliamentary subcommittee on the reform of the penal code thought otherwise and actually wanted to expand the article to include lesbians, because the article itself did not include lesbians in the past. This was stopped through a coalition of human rights NGOs that blocked the passage of the law and sent it back to the subcommittee, and it's now being discussed. And we know that there is at least from the side of civil society, they want to remove all the section of the criminal code that deals with policing adult sexuality. Another issue I want to go into is looking at scientific evidence. I'm not really disagreeing with the other speakers, but scientific evidence, unfortunately, is very much related to, especially if you look at Freudian psychoanalysis. The actual case studies are also from mostly from Europe or the United States, and they sometimes give very false impressions. And even when you try to measure using Kinsey scales, the issue of sexuality, for example, in Lebanon, there was someone who attempted something like this and reached a conclusion that about 35% of Lebanese men want to or have had homosexual acts, and we don't know. We know that this is probably not true. Same thing relates to looking at homosexuality and the issue of the actual issue of religion. That's another note that I think that's very important to speak about, especially since I work with Helem. From the beginning, we made a decision that it's not our role as an association to reform any religion. What we are concerned about is civic law, our rights in civic law, which means that we usually try to not to deal with religious issues. As an organization, we're open to people who are have faith and those who don't have faith, people who believe that religion plays a role in their life, and people who don't believe that. And we think that any reform that should happen should focus on civil law. And this is a very important question when we mention issues such as marriage. First of all, even in the United States and in the West, where gay marriages are becoming a norm, they're also being questioned as whether this is the real course that should be taken by the gay and lesbian liberation movement. Is this the alternative? Is this what we want? Do we want to conform to a heterosexual institution again? That for a lot of us is the reason why we're oppressed. And to a big extent, I think these questions are coming up more outside Europe and the United States, because the gay and lesbian movement is new. And it's in an environment that does not necessarily share the same ideals or all the ideals of the West. I'm not speaking only about this region. I know that a lot of research and work in East Asia has come up with various other concepts, especially those related to gender. We have two genders in Western civilization, but other civilizations look at gender in a different manner and have more than two genders as part of their culture. So working in the civil sphere or civic sphere means that we focus on several issues related to how the state deals with homosexuals and whether the state provides the protection that it's supposed to provide as a state provides this protection to all its citizens. The first one is the annulment of Article 534. Even though the article is very general and it includes all unnatural sexual acts, there are other clauses in the law that protect children, for example, and that speak against necrophilia and other forms. So this is one of our main concerns. The second concern is looking at whether there is any institutional discrimination against homosexuals in Lebanon, and we're focusing this year, for example, on universities and hospitals. We're conducting research to see if there's any if stigma plays a part in people losing their jobs, people being discriminated against in universities. If university codes have anything that would discriminate against someone who identifies as gay or lesbian. And as a last point, also related to this. We also have been working in the past several years with various organizations in Lebanon. So even though this article exists, Helem has been a part of a coalition that includes the Ministry of Health for the past 7 years, through the National AIDS Prevention Program. We've also worked with other ministries, such as the Ministry of Social Affairs, and we've been training some of the police force on, especially that has to deal with health issues, probably on how to deal with gays and lesbians. And we've had several places where it was shocking for us the amount of tolerance, but at the same time we still have an issue of legal recognition as Helem, full legal recognition, since we applied or sent our notice of registration of association in 2004. We waited 60 days that we're supposed to wait. The state did not answer, but still we don't have the number that they give other NGOs. So these are some, I think they were a bit random because issue is very big, but these are the issues that the pertinent issues that we're working on right now as Helem.